Shiloh, good morning. Thank you for gathering as the church this morning. Thank you for coming together as the body and as the bride of Christ and for being a part of this time. I am personally very excited for our message today. This is the fourth and final week looking at the ministries that Shiloh has partnered with, which is what we have done all month long. The very first week we were with Colleen and Onesimo Perez at our worship night, and they shared about the ministry of El Faro, Shiloh being the only church that supports that ministry, that goes down to El Faro, that has sent groups down for many years now. Many of you have been down there, and hopefully many more of you will go down in the future. But it was an incredible night just to catch a glimpse into the work that is being done down at El Faro. The second week, we got to hear a message from Charles Kameli, who is the pastor in Eldoret, Kenya, that Shiloh supports full-time. We got to hear about his ministry. We got to hear about the work that they have been doing, and that was a very powerful, very encouraging message for all of us. Last week, we heard from the guys at New Horizons House, and that was a tougher message to listen to as they kind of removed the veil from a sickness, from a brokenness, from a depravity that is so difficult to wrap our minds around. As we looked at this topic of trafficking, and specifically sex trafficking, it's a hard one to listen to. It's hard to think about. It's not enjoyable. But we get to be a part of a solution. We get to be a part of shining light into this darkness. We get to be a part of combating the evil that is in that place that surrounds trafficking. We get to be a part of the solution. We get to be a part of what Jesus has called us as a church to be a part of. And so while I know for many of you that was a hard message to listen to, I hope that you also take away the encouragement that we get to fight that. We get to be a part of the goodness that combats the evil. Today, I am excited for all of us to hear a message from the executive director of the Alpha Center, my friend Jen McLean, as she shares about a ministry that is here in our own backyard. The Alpha Center has been going against culture. The Alpha Center has been shining a very bright light near the CSU campus for a very long time with some of our very own here at Shiloh who are a part of that team. And it is a message that, again, I hope brings encouragement to you as you get to see what it is that Shiloh is a part of, a ministry that definitely has the favor of God, that has been doing a good work for a very long time. As you look at the mission of Shiloh, building faith, restoring hope, and showing love, the Alpha Center does it well, and they are led by a very strong leader who's very passionate about what it is that she does. Enjoy this message, again, from the executive director and our friend, Jen McLean.
Good morning, Shiloh Church, and hello, Angela. I see you out there. I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember Romper Room, but this sort of feels a little Romper Room-like. I can see Taryn, because he's in the room, but I can see Angela as well. I want to say thank you for years of support as a church. Your support as Shiloh Church provides life-affirming care to women and men in Fort Collins who are seeking help and assistance and really a connection in the middle of a sexual health crisis. And what we love about what we get to do is that it is rooted in the love of Christ. And so as you are supporting us and continuing to pray for us and continuing to encourage us, you can rest in solid assurance that the love of God is what compels us to care for our folks every day, and it is what people encounter when they walk into the doors of Alpha Center. I think for me personally, the reason I have such a passion for the work that we do is that I have a direct life story that is connected to a young mom who found herself unexpectedly pregnant at 15 out on the eastern plains of Colorado in a very small town. And in her conversation with my grandparents, my mom and my grandma decided to go to the church where we attended, and much, I think, to my grandmother's surprise, the pastor advised my grandma to take my mom to Denver to have her pursue an abortion. And was definitely not something that my family was going to support or was at all in favor of. And in fact, my mom tells the story, and she says, your grandma looked at the pastor and said, well, thanks for seeing us today. We'll see you Sunday. And as they walked out of the church, my grandma looked at my mom and said, what he's talking about, that's not happening. You're going to be a mom and we're going to do this. And I have such gratitude for that. I have such confidence in the courage of not only my grandmother, but really of my mom as well. And I just am so thankful that they made a life decision that allowed me to be here, and then created the path that led to employment and work and deep care for the work and the mission at the Alpha Center. So it's personal, and maybe some of you have similar stories that might intersect with the work that the Alpha Center does as I'm talking with you today. The Alpha Center, if you're not familiar with us, is a Christian medical clinic in Fort Collins that provides services and education related to sexual health at no cost. It is absolutely our goal, our vision is that young adults in Fort Collins, hopefully through what they've experienced at Alpha Center, would at some point in their life encounter Jesus, and through that would become aligned with God's design for relationships and sexuality. We recognize fully that it's only through a heart that's changed that we're able to have behaviors and lifestyles and outcomes that are changed. And so that is our deep hope, and really kind of what draws us into the work that we do every day at the Alpha Center. We have a whole host of medical services. A lot of people think about the Alpha Center and they think, gosh, I know that they do something related to pregnancy. And then they kind of don't know what else might happen at the center. But our medical services are actually fairly vast for the size of clinic that we are. And we provide what we call a pre-abortion screening service. And that is specifically designed for our young women in Fort Collins in northern Colorado who are considering primarily an abortion for the outcome of their unexpected pregnancy. And they call us, and we're so thankful. Again, they're so courageous to call and to reach out for the help that they are needing. And through their call, we determine if they've taken a pregnancy test at home, have they had a positive test. They might mention abortion on the phone call. In fact, some women call us expecting that we might provide the abortion. And again, I can have you rest assured that that never happens. We do not provide or refer for abortions at Alpha Center. We do commit to providing really excellent information through that pre-abortion screening process. So we'll schedule them, they'll come in, they meet with an intake specialist who goes over kind of their situational assessment and their situation and their life, what's bringing them in today, who's on their team, is there anybody pressuring them towards an abortion, is there anybody who's cheerleading them who might support a life decision, and just kind of getting that basic information from the patient. And then they meet with one of our 5 nurses, and they take a medical grade pregnancy test, and if that is positive, which we expect it is when they come in, they then receive a limited obstetric ultrasound. And what we're looking for is gestational age of the pregnancy, location of the pregnancy, and then is there a heartbeat, so viability of the pregnancy. And through those 3 factors, we can give a woman, again, how far along she is, that it's a viable pregnancy, and then we can counsel her, and our nurses talk through the risks and the implications of abortion, not in a scary factor and not with any graphic images. Abortion is tender enough, I guess, of a topic that we don't need to add images. And we'll show and talk about the ultrasound. And then again, we're asking her, what's your intention of the pregnancy? And if she's really leaning towards an abortion, we will invite her back to the Alpha Center the following week and we can do an STD screening for her. And then we'll bring her back up to 5 times. And it's just a beautiful part of the process of helping this woman engage with what's happening in her pregnancy and helping her land on the very best decision possible. And what we find is that a lot of our women who we care for, when they're given accurate information and they're given correct time to think, and they're given that place of a pause, they do make a life outcome. They do make a life choice, either through parenting or through adoption. And so that's our pregnancy service. And so when you see pre-abortion screening, I hope it doesn't rattle you. I hope that you can interact with that language with a confidence that it's rooted in providing life-affirming care for every single woman that we see. We also provide a free STD screening, and we provide that to anybody and everybody in the community. And in fact, we had a feedback from a patient just a couple of weeks ago, and this is a patient that we have seen repeatedly for about 7 years. And this patient comes to us because they feel safe, and they feel seen, and they feel heard, in spite of leading a lifestyle that's very different than you or I would lead. And what I'm so thankful for about that is that the gospel is intersecting with this patient's life, whether or not they know it. And their review of us was, while this is a Christian clinic and I am not a Christian, this is a place where I feel safe, I feel seen, and I feel loved. And they represent their faith well, humanity well, and our community well. And I just think, isn't that an active representation of how Jesus would interact with this person? And so we're so thankful for our STD services. And we also provide professional counseling. And we have a counselor who can see our patients up to 6 times, again, at no cost. And so he could see the expectant mom for 6 times, and then he could see the to-be new dad 6 times, and then he could see them as a couple. So they could receive a lot of counseling should they choose to pursue that with our counselor. We operate with 4 core values that kind of guide everything that we do. And those are that we embrace life, we serve with dignity, we care with excellence, and we have a love for reconciliation. I think when I think about our values, they just speak dignity and love for each human. And we're interacting with people, again, who are sitting in the middle of what maybe to them feels maybe a little bit messy. It might feel to them like a crisis. It might feel to them like nobody else is listening. And they've come to a place, they've come to the Alpha Center, and they're in a room with a nurse and or an intake specialist, and there's somebody sitting across from them looking at them eye to eye and saying, I see your story. And I recognize that it's hard and would love to walk with you for this period of time through that piece of your story. And so I love that that's how we interact with each person that we get to care for, be that a patient, a client. Hopefully our donors feel the same way. Hopefully each of you have that same feeling if you get to interact with the Alpha Center as well. And then we have, in addition to our medical services, a whole list of wraparound holistic services. And I think what's amazing about these services is that people can look at a ministry like the Alpha Center and say, wow, that's really great that you provide care in that medical space, but kind of at what happens next. And really our wraparound services are the what happens next piece. So specifically, they're all really related to pregnancy and or pregnancy outcomes. And so they're really geared for that patient who's coming in with that unexpected pregnancy. The first thing that we have is we offer a program called Successful Families. And within Successful Families, we have a class that meets once a month on a Tuesday evening at the Crossing Church, and that the curriculum is varied, and we talk about things from infant and toddler first aid and CPR, to budgeting, to nutrition, to healthy relationship boundaries, establishing good self-care as a parent. And those classes are available to our expectant moms, expectant dads, and then any caregivers that are part of that family unit. It's also open to the community, so you don't actually need to have been a patient at the Alpha Center to participate in Successful Families classes. And we continue to see that program grow, and we're actually actively actively praying that this year would be the year of the dad. And so if you want to join us in that prayer, that would be super encouraging for us. We see a gap in our culture and in our society of men who are stepping into fathering, and part of that is we've told men sadly that their voice isn't welcome, and I'll tell you, your voice is needed, and we would love to have your prayers for the year of the dad, and hopefully the year of the couple. We'd love to see them come together. In addition to Successful Families, the classes, we have one-on-one mentoring. So our expectant moms can meet one-on-one with a mentor who's been a mom, who's walked the road of motherhood and is probably still actively mothering and or in some cases grandmothering. And some of it's about what to expect when baby arrives. And some of those relationships exist for years after baby arrives. I know of one mentor who started mentoring, I believe, like 15 years ago, and she's still in relationship with that mom and those kids. And I just think, isn't that such an amazing, again, example of discipleship and the gospel at work. And then a couple of years we launched our dad coaching for our expectant dads. And this is where an expectant dad can meet with a man who is a dad, who has fathered and again maybe is grandfathering. And they just talk about, what does it mean to be a dad? What does it mean to be a father? What does it mean to walk in that role? And then to equip your child for their own future. And I think it's such a cool thing, because we had this realization several years ago that, we're different. If you didn't know, men and women were different. Where women might want to sit down and talk about a book and go through a discussion about questions of the book, we were recognizing that wasn't landing as well with our expectant dads. And so we had a group of men who said, we could do some coaching, and it's really much more like a coach. And so they might play basketball, they might go for a hike, they might do something else active, and really it's rooted in this conversation about how to be a dad. And I just think it's speaking life into our young expectant dads. And so if you're interested in either of those or any of these opportunities for our wraparound services, you can find that information at our Alpha Center Collective website, and we can work on getting you connected. So those are our Successful Families programs. We also have a labor and delivery class that we offer, and we offer that quarterly. It is free to our patients. It has a limited, pretty reduced cost to anybody in the community, and it's a one-day what to expect when you show up at the hospital class. So we offer that. We have Thrive, which is a healthy relationships curriculum that we wrote about 5 years ago, and that's available for youth groups or small groups of young adults. It's really rooted in healthy relationships, boundaries, identifying who are good friends, what does it look like to have good friends, identifying red flags in relationships, and the end unit is talking about what is your expectation of sex. And we put that at the end because we learned that healthy relationships, when good boundaries are in place and there's good communication, that our young adults are actually delaying sexual activity. So we want to empower them to do that well. So that's available to you also on the website. And then we offer a program that's called Women of Valor. And Women of Valor is for women who have experienced the loss of a child through miscarriage, stillbirth, or early infant death. And that's generally a one-on-one connection with our volunteer who has the same life experience. And she was such an answer to prayer to us. A couple of years ago she came, and we've been praying about how to meet this need in our community. And she came and said, hey, I've had this experience and have learned to lean into the Lord through this loss and to see how I can be reconciled back to God. And so she does that, and she does it beautifully. And so if you have need of that service, we would love to provide that connection for you. And then we offer an after-abortion care group that's called Awake. And it is a 9-week program that's rooted in, it is a biblically based program, and it is a guide for women to get reconnected to the Father heart of God, to say a hello and a goodbye to their child whose life was terminated through abortion. And the name Awake comes from a patient, a client, who participated in the group, and in her own words, when she started the group, she was dull and downtrodden and had sorrow. And through the course of the 9 weeks, she was able to reconnect to the Lord, and she left the group, and her words were, "I am now awake." And we changed it because we thought that just sums up what this time does for women. It's such a powerful group. We have both women who are believers and had an abortion and are seeking that reconciliation and that healing, as well as women who are non-believers. And so being a follower of Christ is not a requirement, and nor should it be a barrier if Awake is for someone that you know, or potentially for you. We would love to care for you in that way. Would love to tell you a little bit. Some of you are maybe wondering, how many people does the Alpha Center serve? And in 2023, the Alpha Center had a busy year. In 2023, we served over 640 individuals by providing the following levels of care. We provided 165 pregnancy tests, and of those 165 pregnancy tests, 133 of those women were at some risk for abortion of their own mention. And so that tells us that pre-abortion screening language is really working well. And of those 165 women, 83% of them we know made a life-affirming, a positive life choice, either through adoption or choosing to parent. There were some women who did end up choosing an abortion, and we sure hope that we get to care for them through Awake at some point in time. We provided 251 ultrasounds, and you might be wondering, wait a minute, that's quite a lot higher, almost 100 higher than the number of pregnancy tests that you provided. And you would be right. Again, through the pre-abortion screening process, we will bring a woman back multiple times as she's making her decision. In fact, we'll see her up to 5 times. And what's amazing to me about that is a woman could start with us at, let's say, week 7 of her pregnancy. And so we're able to see a heartbeat. We're able to determine that through ultrasound. Our nurses are highly trained. And then we're seeing her for 5 additional weeks. So she's leaving us at week 12, if I did my math right, which might not be right. But she's seeing the development of her pregnancy each week as she comes back, and she's getting additional information about her pregnancy. And I think that's a really big reason why we see that 83% of a positive life-affirming choice coming out of that pre-abortion screening. Some women come to us one time and they don't come back. That's their option, and we sure wish they would come back. We also provided 374 STD screening appointments, and again, a great service that connects us to people throughout Fort Collins, both men and women. And what's interesting is that many of our STD patients, again, we might see them routinely, but they also sometimes become pregnancy patients, either for themselves or for a partner, and then vice versa. Sometimes our pregnancy patients become STD patients. And so we find that once they recognize how safe and effective and thorough the service is, and how medically accurate and medically relevant it is for them, they are willing to come back to us time and time again. And so we really are thankful for that. And we provided 156 counseling appointments last year, again, to men and women who needed someone to talk to about what was happening in their life. And I think we want to see those grow, and we have capacity for growth across the board, and we're excited for what God has for us in the future. One story that I wanted to share with you as I was thinking about what to share today is a story of, that is buried in my mind. Burned in my mind. That's what it is. As many of you guys did, at Christmas time, we received, we get a lot of Christmas cards. And we opened a Christmas card that had kind of that array of collage of pictures of about probably a year old playing in the snow and sitting in this little kind of pretend Jeep. And on the back, I remember the license plate even says, "Jesus loves me." And it's just this just one of those Christmas cards that you're like, wow, this is so beautiful. And we don't know who it's from. And we turn it over, and on the back, it just simply said, this is our child. We came to you the November of the year before, and we're 18, and we were terrified about what to do. We were unsure of what we would do. And through the ultrasound and through the seeing the heartbeat, all of our fears fell away. We are so thankful for you. Our little person is here today because of our visit with you. And I will tell you that to a person on our staff, I don't think we had a dry eye as we passed that Christmas card around. They also had, for me, what was like kind of the extra kicker, if you will, was they had a little QR code that you could click on, and it brought us to a video. And it's a video of the exact same day, but it's a video of this little child kind of playing in the snow. I think at one point he kind of almost falls out of the Jeep, and you're just full of gratitude for the courage of this couple to seek help and to come and to interact with life in her womb. And I just, again, I think, wow, they're walking warriors, and I just am so proud of them, and know that your gifts make stories like that possible. And another story that I'm going to have to read to you, because it's not quite as burned in my brain, is one of a patient who we have seen a couple of different times, but this one just hit home about the importance of what we do. But this young woman came to us and shared with us that she was nervous about coming in because she had an abortion in her past. And she shared with us that she had felt highly judged at a different medical clinic, and that felt really harsh to her. For this pregnancy, she was interested in support and resources, and she was excited and hopeful during the ultrasound, which was performed by our nurses. During her first appointment, our intake specialist was able to pray with her. And before leaving, she said that her interaction at Alpha Center had encouraged her faith, and even requested that her intake specialist would pray with her again at the second appointment. She was excited to engage with our Parent Success Program, and she made a courageous decision to become a mom. And I think about that story, and I think, here's a young woman who has an abortion in her past, and it's easy for us as humans to repeat what we've done before, because we know it. We know what the outcomes are, and she made a courageous decision to say that she wanted something different. And even more courageous than that, she made a decision to show up at a Christian medical clinic where her perception may have been, much like the clinic that she experienced before, that she was going to be judged and that she was going to be shamed, maybe for her previous decision, maybe for her current situation of expecting a second child. And instead, she was met with love. We saw her as a beautiful creation of Christ. And I think the volumes that speaks to her, and clearly the outcomes of a decision to become a mom and to invite prayer with someone who you've just met, honestly, 40 minutes ago. I think it just tells me that Christ is present at the center, and that Christ speaks through our staff. And I know that. I get to work with them every day. And I think it's a place of hopefully deep encouragement for you. And I would say as a body of believers who are choosing to champion and choosing to cheerlead and advocate for the work of the Alpha Center, first, again, I want to say thank you. Thank you for the ways that you support us. It is incredibly meaningful to us. And the relationship that Shiloh has built with Alpha Center is one that is dear to my heart. And so, again, thank you. And you may be sitting together today and thinking, are there ways that I can get involved? Are there things that I can do? Gosh, I'd love to get to be a part of a story like one of these that have been shared. And there are some ways that you can get involved. We have volunteering opportunities, and that information can be found at our Alpha Center Collective website. And you could do anything from, you could become a medical receptionist for us, and you could come and greet our patients, and that's a 4-hour shift once a week, and we provide training for you for that shift. You could become a mentor or a dad coach. You could be a teacher at one of the Successful Families classes. If you need, you could participate in Women of Valor or Awake, or you could share that with other women who need that experience. And I did neglect to share, we do also have abortion support for men who have experienced abortion. So if you need that or know somebody, we have that resource as well. But we can get you connected to all of that. And the first step would be to visit our Alpha Center Collective website. And you can learn a little bit more there. We also have events. By the time you watch this, our golf tournament may have come or gone, but we have a golf tournament that's just around the corner from today, and we still have a couple of opportunities for that. And then we have a gala in September, and would love to see you there. It's a night where we celebrate the work of the Alpha Center. We come together as a community and are just grateful to the Lord for all that He does through Alpha Center. And again, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for the ways that you care for us. Thank you for the ways that you pray for us. And if we can care for you or provide service to anyone in your family or your circle, it would be such an honor to do so. Thank you again so much, not only from me, but from our staff, our patients, our clients, and our board.
Hey, good morning, everybody. This weekend, as you may hear in the background behind me, our family had the opportunity to get together with all of my family for a little quick weekend getaway. While we've been up here, we've been playing this game called Memory that some of you may be familiar with, where you have all these cards laid out face down. For each card, there is a picture on it that has another card with the same picture on it. So as you lay all these cards out, you're trying to find the pairs. You take turns flipping over 2 cards. You're trying to remember which card was the basketball, or which card was the fish, or which card was the wagon. And you win the game by remembering where all of these cards are as they lie there face down. For those of you who have maybe been around for a while, then you've heard me talk about this before, but ever since college, I have always found the story of the Israelites to be a confusing one. You had a people who were brought out of slavery by Moses. Moses told them that God was with him, that God would be with them, that they were the chosen people. One of the first things they see coming out of slavery is the Red Sea is parted. Every day God leads them with a cloud. At night He leads them with fire. They see miracle after miracle after miracle. And yet they never fully believed. They never seemed to appreciate. They were never thankful. They were never able to stop and go, God has been so good to us, because they never stopped to remember. Instead, they always complained. They always grumbled. They sinned against God. They refused to recognize Him for what He had done. And as a result of all of that, they wandered in the desert for 40 years, all because they failed to remember. This morning, as we do every Sunday, we take a few minutes to remember, to stop, to remember the sacrifice of Jesus, to remember the price that was paid on the cross for our sins. And we stop to remember. We take bread, we take the juice, and as Jesus commanded His disciples at the Last Supper, we do that in order to remember. Paul tells us in 1 Corinthians 11 that we can do this wrong. We can take communion the wrong way. We can take communion in such a way that it opens the door to judgment. And in 1 Corinthians 11, Paul talks about this. He says, this is why so many of you are sick. It's because you do this time wrong. You don't remember. You fail to remember. You fail to stop and reflect on what it is that Jesus has done, and in doing so, you invite judgment on yourselves. So what we're going to do for the next couple of minutes as we take communion together as the church, as we take the bread, as we take the juice, I want to ask all of you simply to stop and to remember what Jesus went through, maybe to reflect on the events leading up to the crucifixion and the resurrection of Jesus. But for the next few minutes, I don't want distractions. I want to ask you to force your mind, to force your spirit into a place of remembering not what you have to do today, not what you didn't get done last week, but spend a few minutes right now as a church remembering what it is that Jesus has done for us and what he did through the cross and through his resurrection. Let's pray. Father, thank you this morning for the opportunity to remember. Thank you for your son. Thank you for his blood. Thank you for the price that was paid for us, God, long before we knew you and even acknowledged you. Thank you for the church, and thank you for the joy that we have through Jesus. It's in his name that we pray. Amen.